Okay, tonight is the 10th of August, and this is the 25th night. We are talking on the Digha Nikaya Suttas. Tonight we come to the second last sutta, sutta number 33, Sangiti Sutta. Sangiti means chanting together. Thus have I heard. Once the Lord was touring in the Malla country with a large company of about 500 monks. Arrived at Pava, the Mallas' capital, he stayed in the mango grove of Chunda the smith. Now at that time a new meeting hall of the Mallas of Pava, called Ubbhataka, had recently been built, and it had not yet been occupied by any ascetic or Brahmin, or indeed by any human being. Hearing that the Lord was staying in Chunda's mango grove, the Mallas of Pava went to see him. Having saluted him, they sat down to one side and said, Lord, the Mallas of Pava have recently erected a new meeting hall called Ubbhataka, and it has not yet been occupied by any ascetic or Brahmin, or indeed by any human being. May the Blessed Lord be the first to use it. Should he do so, that would be for the lasting good and happiness of the Mallas of Pava. And the Lord consented by silence. Noting his assent, the Mallas rose, saluted him, passed out to his right and went to the meeting hall. They spread mats all round, arranged seats, put on a water pot and an oil lamp, and then returning to the Lord, saluted him, sat down to one side, and reported what they had done, saying, whenever the Blessed Lord is ready. Stop here for a moment. So here you see it's Indian belief that before you use a building, if you let a holy man use it, then you can get married. Then the Lord dressed, took his robe and bowl, and went to the meeting hall with his monks. There he washed his feet, entered the hall and sat down against a central pillar, facing east. The monks, having washed their feet, entered the hall and sat down along the western wall, facing east, with the Lord in front of them. The Pava Mallas washed their feet, entered the hall and sat down along the eastern wall, facing west, with the Lord in front of them. Then the Lord spoke to the Mallas on Dhamma till far into the night, instructing, inspiring, firing and delighting them. Then he dismissed them, saying, Vasetas, the night has passed away. Now do as you think fit. Very good, Lord, replied the Mallas, and they got up, saluted the Lord and went out, passing him by on the right. Stop here for a moment. So you see the Buddha sat down facing east. It's a yoga tradition. The monks meditate. They face east. Maybe because of the direction of rotation of the earth. And it's stated sometimes if they want to, they can face north or so. And you see when they leave, they keep the Buddha, the right shoulder towards the Buddha. As soon as the Mallas had gone, the Lord, surveying the monks sitting silently all about, said to the Venerable Sariputta, the monks are free from sloth and torpor, Sariputta. You think of a discourse on Dhamma to give to them. My back aches, I want to stretch it. Very good, Lord, replied Sariputta. And the Lord, having folded his robe in four, lay down on his right side in the lion posture, with one foot on the other, mindful and clearly aware, and bearing in mind the time to rise. Now at that time the Niganta Nataputta had just died at Pava, and at his death the Nigantas were split into two parties, quarrelling and disputing, etc. You would have thought they were bent on killing each other. Even the white-robed lay followers were disgusted when they saw that their doctrine and discipline was so ill-proclaimed, having been proclaimed by one not fully enlightened, and now with its support gone, without an arbiter. And the Venerable Sariputta addressed the monks, referring to this situation, and said, so ill-proclaimed was their teaching and discipline, so unedifyingly displayed, and so ineffectual in calming the passions, having been proclaimed by one who was not fully enlightened. But friends, this Dhamma has been well proclaimed by the Lord, the fully enlightened one. And so we should all recite it together without disagreement, so that this holy life may be enduring and established for a long time. Thus to be for the welfare and happiness of the multitude, out of compassion for the world, for the benefit, welfare and happiness of devas and humans. And what is this Dhamma that has been well proclaimed by the Lord? There is one thing that was perfectly proclaimed by the Lord, who knows and sees, the fully enlightened Buddha. So we should all recite together for the benefit, welfare and happiness of devas and humans. What is this one thing? Eko Dhammo. All beings are maintained by nutriment. All beings are maintained by volition. Stop here for a moment. All beings are maintained by nutriment. Nutriment of food, ahara, supports beings. Doesn't matter what type of beings, all need nutriment. And according to the suttas, there are 4 types of nutriment. One is material food, like what we take. The second one is contact. Third one is volition. The fourth is consciousness. If you want to know more, you listen to my Digha Nikaya talks. And then secondly, all beings are maintained by volition. In the dependent origination, this word sankhara means volition. That's the way I translate it. And there are 2 sets of sankhara in the suttas. One set that has to do with dependent origination is kaya sankhara, body volition, vachi sankhara, verbal volition, and chitta sankhara, mental volition, and that is to do with dependent origination. There is another set which is almost similar. The first 2 are the same, kaya sankhara, vachi sankhara. The third is mano sankhara. But that in the suttas is always used for the karma, creating karma. We create karma through the body, speech and mind. But in the dependent origination, sankhara volition is the volition to exist, the volition or the will to exist or to function or to live. So the body volition, the body wants to live, the body wants to function. The body volition is breathing, and the verbal volition, when the mouth wants to function or to speak, then you have vitaka and vichara, thought directed and sustained. You have to think first before you can speak. And then mental volition is perception and feeling. Once perception and feeling starts, then consciousness starts and the mind works. Also, this in the suttas we always hear sabbe sankhara anicca ti. All sankharas are impermanent, and my interpretation is that all volitions are impermanent. It is volitions that create, that wills. Volition means willing, using your will. When you use your will, you create conditions for something, to do something. For example, just to move your hand, you got to have the volition, the intention to move your hand before your hand can move. So everything in the world, before something can happen in the world, there must be a volition behind it. There must be a volition then only. Even for the plants to grow, the plants could have this will to live. That's why you find plants, they go towards the sun. So because everything depends on conditions. If conditions are impermanent, and everything in the world depends on conditions, then if the conditions are impermanent, the volition behind, then everything in the world is even more impermanent. Okay, there are 2 things that were perfectly proclaimed by the Buddha, by the Lord. What are they? Nama rupa, mentality and materiality, and then ignorance and craving for existence, and then belief in existence and belief in non-existence, and then lack of a sense of shame and lack of fear of wrongdoing. Number 5, sense of shame and fear of wrongdoing. Number 6, here it says roughness and friendship with evil, but I think a better translation is disobedience and evil friends. And then number 7 is obedience and a good friend or good spiritual friend. And then number 8, skill in knowing offences and the procedure for rehabilitation for them. This is more concerning monks. Number 9, skill in entering and returning from jhana. Number 10, skill in knowing the elements and in paying attention to them. Number 11, skill in knowing the sense spheres and dependent origination. Number 12, skill in knowing what are causes and what are not. 13, straightforwardness and modesty. 14, patience and gentleness. 15, gentle speech and politeness. 16, non-harming and purity. 17, here it says lack of mindfulness and of clear awareness, or you can say forgetfulness and unmindfulness. And then number 18 is recollection and mindfulness. Recollection also means remembering. And then 19, unguarded sense doors and non-restraint in eating. 20, guarded sense doors and restraint in eating. 21, powers of reflection and mental development. 22, powers of recollection and concentration. 23, tranquility and contemplation, samatha and vipassana. And 24, this is samatha nimitta, tranquility, the sign of tranquility or tranquility object, and upholding the sign. 25, exertion and non-distraction. 26, attainment of perfection of morality and view. 27, failure of morality and view. 28, purity of morality and view. 29, purity of view and the effort to attain it. 30, being moved by a sense of urgency by what should move one and the systematic effort of one so moved. 31, not being content with wholesome acts and not shrinking from exertion. 32, knowledge and liberation. 33, knowledge of the destruction and of their non-recurrence. These are the sets of 2 things that were perfectly proclaimed by the Lord. So we should all recite them together. Stop here for a moment. Just comment on some of this. Number 1, mentality and materiality. Nama rupa is the counterpart of consciousness. So it should be the objects of consciousness. Objects of consciousness. We have the mental part and the material part. Number 3 is belief in existence and belief in non-existence after death. Belief in existence is the eternalist. And the belief in non-existence is the annihilationist. This 24, samatha nimitta, is the object of tranquility. Object of tranquility. And pagaha nimitta is upholding the object. Say, for example, the object of tranquility is anapanasati. You are practicing the breath meditation. So, samatha nimitta is the breath itself. And upholding the object is to uphold it in your mind all the time, not to lose your mindfulness. If you lose your mindfulness, you are not upholding the object or grasping the object. Then you lose then you become forgetful. But if you remember, there is recollecting, sati. Sati is remembering, to uphold your object, your nimitta. So in the suttas, this nimitta is your object of your concentration. and later books like the Visuddhimagga, they interpret a bit differently. Okay, we come to 1.10. There are sets of 3 things. Which are they? 3 unwholesome roots of greed, hatred and delusion. Lobha, dosa and moha. 3 wholesome roots of non-greed, non-hatred and non-delusion. 3 kinds of wrong conduct in body, speech and mind. 3 kinds of right conduct in body, speech and mind. 3 kinds of unwholesome thoughts, of sensuality, of enmity or hostility, and of cruelty. 3 kinds of wholesome thoughts, of renunciation of sense pleasures, of non-enmity and non-cruelty. 3 kinds of unwholesome motivation or intention, through sensuality, enmity and cruelty. 3 kinds of wholesome motivation or intention, through renunciation, non-enmity and non-cruelty. 3 kinds of unwholesome perception of sensuality, enmity and cruelty. 3 kinds of wholesome perception of renunciation, non-enmity, non-cruelty. 3 unwholesome elements, sensuality, enmity, cruelty. 3 wholesome elements, renunciation, non-enmity, non-cruelty. 3 more elements of sense desire, form and formless element. 3 more elements, element of form, formless and element of cessation. 3 more elements, a low element, middling and sublime element. 3 kinds of craving, sensual craving, craving for becoming or being, craving for extinction or non-being. 3 more kinds of craving, craving for the world of sense desires, for the world of form and for the formless world. 3 more kinds of craving for the world of form, formless world and for cessation. The 3 factors, sangyojana, which Asuttapana destroys. Identity view, sakkaya ditthi. Attachment to rules and rituals, silabata paramasa. And doubt, vichikicca. 3 asavas. Asavas, here they say corruptions. I prefer the uncontrolled mental outflows of sense desire, of becoming and of ignorance. 3 kinds of becoming or being in the world of sense desire, in the world of form and the formless world. 3 quests for sense desires, for becoming and for the holy life. 3 forms of conceit. I am better than so and so. I am equal to so and so. I am worse than so and so. 3 times, past, future and present. 3 ends. The end of this identity is arising, its cessation. 3 feelings, pleasant, painful and neither. 3 kinds of suffering, as pain, as inherent in volition, as due to change. Stop here for a moment. So pain, suffering due to pain. Then suffering due to volition is you make a decision to do something and then later you regret it. You made the wrong decision, so you suffer for it. For example, you make the decision to kill some animal and later you regret it. And then suffering due to change because of impermanence. Maybe somebody close to you passes away and then you suffer. 3 accumulations, evil with fixed result, good with fixed result, indeterminate. 3 obscurations, one hesitates, vacillates, is undecided. 3 things that Tathagata has no need to guard against. Tathagata is perfectly pure in body, conduct, speech and in mind. There is no misdeed of body, speech or mind which he must conceal, lest anyone should get to hear about it. 3 obstacles are lust, hatred and delusion. 3 fires, lust, hatred and delusion. 3 more fires, the fire of those to be revered, of the householder and of those worthy of offerings. 3-fold classification of matter, visible and resisting, invisible and resisting, invisible and unresisting. 3 kinds of karmic volition, meritorious, demeritorious and imperturbable. This imperturbable normally refers to the fourth jhana and above. Three persons, the learner, non-learner, and the one who is neither. Learner and non-learner are Aryans. So the one who is neither is the ordinary person, Putujana. Three elders, an elder by birth, because according to age, in Dhamma and by convention. Person elder in Dhamma, person who is more advanced in the Dhamma. And then by convention, for example, a person has become a monk longer. So he is elder because of the number of vasas he has. Three grounds based on merit, that of giving, morality and meditation. Dana, Sila, Bhavana. Three grounds for reproof are based on what has been seen, heard or suspected. That means you have seen somebody do wrong, or you heard somebody do wrong, or you suspect somebody do wrong, and you can reprove that person. Three kinds of rebirth in the realm of sense desire. There are beings who desire what presents itself to them and are in the grip of that desire, such as human beings, some devas and some in states of woe. There are beings who desire what they have created, such as the devas who rejoice in their own creation. Nimana Rati, heaven, this is the fifth level, sensual desire, heaven. There are beings who rejoice in the creation of others, such as the devas having power over others' creations. Paranimita Vasavati is the highest heaven, the sixth heaven in the sensual desire realm. Three happy rebirths. There are beings who, having continually produced happiness now, dwell in happiness, such as the devas of the Brahma group. This is the first jhana, plane. There are beings who are overflowing with happiness, drenched with it, full of it, immersed in it, so that they occasionally exclaim, "Oh, what bliss!" Such as the radiant devas, Abhasara. This is the second jhana, heaven. There are beings immersed in happiness who, supremely blissful, experience only perfect happiness, such as the lustrous Deva, Subhakinna. This is the third jhana, heaven. Three kinds of wisdom, of the learner, non-learner, and one who is neither. Three kinds of wisdom based on thought or thinking, on hearing or learning, on mental development, meditation. Three armaments or weapons, what one has learned, detachment and wisdom. Three faculties of knowing that one will know the unknown, of highest knowledge of the one who knows. Three eyes, the flesh eye, divine eye or heavenly eye, and the eye of wisdom. Three kinds of training in higher morality, higher mind and higher wisdom. Three kinds of development of the body, kaya, bhavana, development of the body, of mind and of wisdom. Stop here for a moment. I think last year or the year before, we went through the suttas. There was one place, I'm not sure, I don't quite remember where, but it talks about the develop in body and develop in mind. And if I remember correctly, one who is developed in body, when pleasant feeling arises, it does not invade his mind and obsess it. And the one who is developed in mind, when unpleasant feelings or painful feelings are experienced, it does not invade his mind and obsess it. If I remember correctly. This development of wisdom, I don't remember it's stated anywhere. Probably that's the Arahant. Three unsurpassables of vision or practice of liberation. Three kinds of concentration, with thought directed and sustained. With thought sustained but without thought directed. And then the third one is without thought directed and without thought sustained. Three more kinds of concentration on emptiness, the signless and the desireless. Three purities of body, speech and mind. 3 qualities of the sage as to body, speech and mind. 3 skills in going forward, going down in means to progress. 3 intoxications with health, with youth, with life. Stop here for a moment. When we are young, we are very healthy, we are very strong, so we are intoxicated, or we are very arrogant about our health. And when you are young also, we tend to be arrogant of our youth. We think we are very beautiful, we look down on old people who look ugly. And then also people with life, we are also intoxicated with life. Never think that very soon this life force it will go away. Every day is getting less and less and less. 3 predominant influences: oneself, the world, the Dhamma. 3 topics of discussion: talk maybe of the past and of the future and of the present. 3 knowledges of one's past lives, of the disease and rebirth of beings, of the destruction of the asavas. These, stop here for a moment. These are the 3 knowledges the Buddha attained on the night of enlightenment. 3 abidings: Deva abiding, Brahma abiding, and the Aryan abiding. 3 miracles of psychic power, of telepathy, that means knowing what people are thinking, of instruction, the ability to teach. These are the sets of 3 things. So should all recite together. I stop here for a moment. Anything anybody want to discuss? If I go too fast, you may not have the chance to discuss. Highest wisdom is not something physical. It's the wisdom you attain when you learn the Dhamma. For example, when a person attains the right view, he understands the Dhamma. Then the Buddha calls it the eye of Dhamma. He has attained the eye of Dhamma. That's the eye of wisdom. Sometimes they translate it as the eye of Dhamma. Sometimes they translate it as the vision of Dhamma. Any other thing? Okay, we continue. 1.11. There are sets of 4 things which were perfectly proclaimed by the Lord. The 4 intense states of mindfulness, the 4 Satipatthana. Here among abides contemplating body in the body, ardent, clearly aware and mindful, having put aside hankering and fretting for the world. Here abides contemplating feelings in feelings, mind in mind, Dhamma in Dhamma, clearly aware and mindful, etc. Number 2, the 4 great efforts, Samappadana. Here among arouses his will, makes an effort, stirs up energy, exerts his mind and strives to prevent the arising of unarisen, evil, unwholesome mental states. He rouses his will, etc., and strives to overcome evil, unwholesome mental states that have arisen. He rouses his will and strives to produce unarisen, wholesome mental states. He rouses his will and strives to maintain wholesome mental states that have arisen, not to let them fade away, to bring them to greater growth, to the full perfection of development. And these are the 4 Samappadana. The 4 parts, or the 4 bases of psychic power, 4 Iddhipada. Here among develops concentration of intention accompanied by effort of will, concentration of energy accompanied by effort of will, concentration of consciousness, concentration of investigation accompanied by effort of will. Or you can also say concentration of desire and determined effort, concentration of energy and determined effort, concentration of mind and determined effort, concentration of investigation and determined effort. Number 4 is the 4 jhanas. Here among, detached from all sense desires, detached from unwholesome states, enters and remains in the first jhana, which is with thought directed and sustained, born of detachment, filled with delight and joy. And with the subsiding of thought directed and sustained, by gaining inner tranquility and oneness of mind, he enters and remains in the second jhana, which is without thought directed and sustained, born of concentration, filled with delight and joy. And with the fading away of delight, remaining imperturbable, mindful and clearly aware, He experiences in himself that joy of which the noble ones say, "Happy is he who dwells with equanimity and mindfulness." He enters and remains in the third jhana, and having given up pleasure and pain, and with the disappearance of former gladness and sadness, he enters and remains in the fourth jhana, which is beyond pleasure and pain, with utter purity of equanimity and mindfulness. Number 5, the 4 samadhi bhavana, the 4 developments of concentration. This meditation, when developed and expanded, leads A, to happiness here and now. B, gaining knowledge and vision. C, mindfulness and clear awareness, or recollection and mindfulness. D, destruction of the asavas. A, how does this practice lead to happiness here and now? Here a monk practices the 4 jhanas. So when he is abiding in jhana, he is happy here and now. B, how does it lead to the gaining of knowledge and vision? Here a monk attends to the perception of light. He fixes his mind to the perception of day, by night as by day as by night. In this way, with the mind clear and unclouded, he develops a state of mind that is full of brightness. Stop here for a moment. So you see, to gain knowledge and vision, it is not by practicing mindfulness. Here the Buddha says, you got to make the mind bright. And a bright mind is a mind which enters jhana, because the word jhana itself means fire. So the implication of fire is that it's bright. The state of jhana is a state of brightness. That's why beings who develop jhana, when they are reborn in the form realm, their bodies are extremely bright. Even the first jhana itself, as I mentioned before, the Brahma's light can pervade 1,000 worlds, up to 100,000 worlds. So far away, they're so bright. So if you want to gain this knowledge and vision, jnana dasana, you have to cultivate jhana until the mind is very bright. And the state of the 4th jhana is very bright. C, how does it lead to mindfulness and recollection? Here a monk knows feelings as they arise, remain and vanish. He knows perceptions as they arise, remain and vanish. He knows thoughts as they arise, remain and vanish. Stop here for a moment. So to practice sati sampajanya, sati is recollection or a specific mindfulness. And sampajanya is general mindfulness. So to practice that, you have to be very mindful and keep your mind always on your feelings, on your perceptions, on your thoughts, and not to go outside to Mara's playground of sight, sound, smells and taste. Sight, sound, smells, taste and touch. D, how does this practice lead to the destruction of the asavas? Here a monk abides in the contemplation of the rise and fall of the 5 aggregates of attachment. This is material form, this is its arising, this is its ceasing. These are feelings, perception, volition, consciousness. This is how they arise, this is how they cease. So to attain liberation, we have to constantly understand the 5 khandhas, the 5 aggregates that we attach to, form of body, body, feeling, perception, volition and consciousness. Basically body and mind. See what they are like and how they arise, how they cease, and how they are impermanent depending on conditions. Number 6, 4 boundless states. Here a monk with a heart filled with loving kindness pervades first 1 quarter, then the 2nd, 3rd and the 4th quarter. Thus he stays, spreading the thought of loving kindness above, below and across, everywhere, always with a heart filled with loving kindness, abundant, magnified, unbounded, without hatred or ill will, and likewise or similarly with compassion, joy and equanimity. 4 formless jhanas. Here a monk, by passing entirely beyond bodily sensations. Bodily sensations means the 5 senses. Seeing, hearing, smelling, taste, touch. That means the 5 senses, closed. by the disappearance of all sense of resistance, and by non-attraction to the perception of diversity, seeing that space is infinite, reaches and remains in the sphere of infinite space. This is the arupa, the first arupa jhana. So to attain the arupas, your 5 sense doors must close. And by passing entirely beyond the sphere of infinite space, seeing that consciousness is infinite, he reaches and remains in the sphere of infinite consciousness. And by passing entirely beyond the sphere of infinite consciousness, seeing that there is no thing, he reaches and remains in the sphere of no thingness. And by passing entirely beyond the sphere of no thingness, he reaches and remains in the sphere of neither perception nor non-perception. These are the 4 arupas, the 4 supports. Here among judges, that one thing is to be pursued, one thing is to be endured, one thing to be avoided, one thing to be suppressed. You have different interpretations of what this means. One thing to be pursued could be wholesome states. One thing to be endured could be suffering or pain. One thing to be avoided could be unwholesome states. One thing to be suppressed is unwholesome thoughts.